So welcome everyone. I was going to say good afternoon, but I guess it depends really on what time zone you're in. It may be still morning, it might be night for you. You might be sitting and watching the webinar with a glass of wine. We unfortunately are water since it is afternoon for us, but I'm Juliet, this is Steve, and we are from the Kninja Network, and welcome to another one of our Kninja Knowledge webinars. So we're very pleased this week to have our lovely guest, Misty from TSheets, who is and I'm going to read her title to make sure I get it correct, Head of Accounting Programs and Education Strategy at TSheets.
You got it.
So welcome Misty. And Misty and I actually met for the first time at Scaling New Heights this last May, and I had attended one of Misty's presentations. And as she was going through this presentation and talking, I was thinking, okay, there's my soulmate. Her entire message of her entire presentation was education. And so I grabbed her after the, and was tweeting to her through her session, and grabbed her afterwards just to express how excited I was that, you know, there's someone else who's as passionate about education as I am and as we are. So we're so honored that you were able to join us as well for this webinar.
Absolutely. It was a no-brainer. And I felt the same way when I met you afterwards. I was like, oh, the fact that you have so much personality in your business and are true to yourself, it's like, I
appreciate that.
Our soulmates.
Okay, so what Steve and I have always felt is that, actually, do you want to do some housekeeping stuff before we jump in?
Sure.
You like to do the housekeeping stuff.
Do I like to do the housekeeping?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not at home.
No.
But
okay, well, that's a whole other webinar. Okay, that's a different webinar.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we could just make sure that our chat box is working. So if you could please just type in your first name and what part of the planet you are on, so that we know that's all working, that would be really awesome. The chat box you can find, I believe, under the 3 buttons where it says more. Okay, so Natasha from Regina, Saskatchewan. Hi, Natasha. So if everyone else can just start typing in, that would be great, please.
And someone typed into the Q&A section, which is different from the chat.
Right. Hi, Catherine from Collingwood. Nadine from Victoria, British Columbia. Who was it? Oh, Bruce from Ottawa.
Yeah, so Bruce, you typed in the Q&A, not the chat, which is still fine. We can still read it. Just wanted to make sure that you were aware that it's a different section. So, perfect.
And oh, Kathleen from Georgetown, and my mouse is not behaving itself. So
so hopefully we won't need it.
Yeah, let's minimize the housekeeping in case I have to click on anything, because it will be a problem.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Welcome Miriam and David and George. So we've got people from all over the place, some who are experiencing winter already, like Alberta and Saskatchewan. I'm not sure in Collingwood if you have snow yet. And then some
or Delaware. I don't know if there's snow in Delaware yet.
I don't know where Delaware is. So.
Oh, Lord. Okay. And you actually said that on the webinar.
I did, yes.
We have that recorded. Okay.
Geography is not my strong suit. Okay,
please go ahead.
So from a housekeeping standpoint as well, since Steve has been distracted, and this webinar is being recorded, so you will get a copy of the webinar. If you've registered, you'll get a copy of the webinar. So, yes. Okay, perfect. So Steve and I believe very strongly that people do business with people. And so one of the reasons that we have these Kninja Knowledge webinars is not only to share what's happening in the industry, something that could potentially help you build your business or take your business to the next level, but to get to know the people that are behind the programs that you use or that you're thinking of using. And so Misty is from TSheets, as I mentioned at the beginning. So perhaps we can get started by, if you can share with us a little bit about your journey as to how did you get where you are now with this awesome title.
With that really long title. It all started April 1st when I was born. No. I actually started out at a company right out of college that I started out as a receptionist. I graduated, I didn't know what I was doing, floundering after college as some people do. So I temped at a company as a receptionist. And one day a gentleman called in and he was looking for the VP of the company. And I said, oh, let me check if he's available. And he said, oh, I'll take that call. Just give me a couple of minutes to get out of this meeting. I was like, no problem. So I asked the gentleman on the phone if he wanted to hear anything about the new products that they had. And he was like, sure. So I started talking to him about it because in my spare time of sitting at the front desk, I decided to learn what the company did. And I started telling him all about the products and the features and all that. Little did I know it was the CEO of the company. So after that phone call, the HR department came out and asked me if I would like to move into their OEM team. And so I thought about that, and OEM is Original Engineer Manufacturing. And they were a motherboard company. They would customize motherboards for all the Fortune 500 companies. And so I moved on to the OEM team. And from there, that VP of that company left and started another company and brought me on board there. And there I helped start that company from the ground floor up. And that was in motor manufacturing and encryption cards. And we built out the sales and the government and the retail division. And my territory was everything east of the Mississippi, Latin America, and Asia.
Wow. Wow.
And it was kind of like running your own business. And every job I've had has kind of been like running my own company within a company, because it's all something that has never been done or not been focused on, and the company just needs to do and grow. And so as years went on, I've been in technology for a majority of my life, minus a small stint of me and my husband doing our own business, which is what brought me to Sleater. And it was so funny when I interviewed at Sleater, Sleater Group, for those of you guys who don't know, Doug Sleater was a thought leader in the profession and still is a thought leader in the profession. And they had a conference, and they were all about really being a company that vetted technology and recommended the technology, because we knew that accounting professionals didn't have time to like really dig deep sometimes. And so we took that whole process on. And when I interviewed with him, he was just chatting with me, and they were talking to me about my theater life and all these other things. And I was like, I left the interview going, I think I made a really good friend, but I don't think I have a job. Because I kept trying to tell them like things that I've done in the past, and they're like, yeah. So why aren't you doing professional theater? I'm like, no. So I became their executive director. I didn't get the job I was interviewed for. Instead, they actually created a job for me from scratch and created a position for me at their company that hadn't existed. And so then I got into the accounting world, and I've stayed here because I love it.
Excellent. That's an interesting journey.
So thank you to Doug Sleater for seeing something in you
For
that
sure.
introduced you to the industry. That's great.
Absolutely. And
yeah.
how long have you been with TSheets?
I have only been with TSheets for, I want to say since May of this year. So I'm still fairly new to the group, but I've known TSheets for a while because they were one of the products that I recommended when I was at Sleater. And when we vetted products, it was a 5-page document of what I would have to do to know if the product was something we felt comfortable recommending, because we took that very seriously. And so I've known them for a long time. I've known them when they were a small group of I think their whole company came to the Sleater conference, and they were maybe at that time 11 people, and now it's 230.
Yeah, I mean, Matt has done some amazing things with TSheets. We met Matt at QB Connect.
Well, accidentally ran into him.
Yeah, on the street. We hijacked him and said, "Are you Matt from TSheets?" Because I've always thought very highly of what he's built at TSheets and admire it so completely. So to hear that,
and we love their culture.
Yeah, the culture.
I agree. Some of I'm still saying they, even though I know I'm part of that. But they really have been some of the nicest people I've ever met. And you see people at conferences, and especially developers sometimes, and you're thinking, oh, this is their conference face. They're just really nice because
Right.
they're trying to get business. And they are this nice all of the time. They're just really kind, genuine people that you just are joyous being around. So
that's nice to hear.
Yes. Absolutely. And that's absolutely the image that's projected, externally as well. That is what we see and what we perceive the company to be like. So it's great that from the inside perspective, it's the same as what we see
Really?
externally, because that's not always the case. Usually, there's a persona for everybody else, and then behind closed doors, it's something else. So great to hear that it is the same on both sides.
The Boise one.
Can you tell us a little bit about, so we want to learn a little bit more about you. Can you tell us what you enjoy doing in your spare time when you're not working?
Yes, sure. I have multiple passions, but my main one, my family and friends, obviously, anytime I can get with them makes a better life for me. But outside of that, I love to dance. I'm a choreographer and director for professional and semi-professional theater. And so to me, I could have like the most grueling day of just like heads down, back-to-back meetings, working really hard, and be completely exhausted. And then I go into rehearsal and I'm being sung at by, 20 people in 4-part harmony. And you can't end your day like without being just joyous. Yeah. So it absolutely refuels me to have that creative outlet, and it like gets my creative juices flowing to be able to come back and think outside of the box for what I do on a day-to-day basis. So it's my passion, which is why we were talking about the salsa party earlier. That's my joy.
So you should have been leading the class with Mariette, not sitting in the audience. I'm going to have to let her know that next time she has to make sure she brings you up to the front.
All right. I'm okay with other people leading, but I'm happy to lead when I need to. So either way, it's good for me.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about TSheets, the company, your role with the company, a little bit about the service for the people that are attending or that watch the webinar later that don't know about TSheets, which I don't know how that's possible, but just in case there are some.
There are some. I know there are. So TSheets is a time tracking and scheduling software. Employees can track their time anywhere and any way they want using a computer, mobile phone, tablet. It's GPS enabled. They can text in their time. You can even do it through Twitter, which still blows my mind, and the list goes on how they could track it. But for us, we did, it started with Matt noticing that even his most honest employee, like the lovely woman that he just was like, she can do no wrong, like had some discrepancies on her timesheet. So he's like, So we saw a little bit of a problem. And through research, we found that 1 out of 2 employees admit to time theft. And also a thing called buddy punching, which when I first heard that term, it was new to me. And I was like, workplace violence, okay.
Right.
But it's not that. It's actually, when you call your buddy and say, hey, I'm going to be late, can you clock me in? Or, hey, I forgot to clock out, can you clock me out? And it's all those hours and minutes that you had that you weren't there at work that are costing the small businesses, I believe the last report was $11 billion a year.
Wow.
Which is insane to me.
Yes.
And so that's the problem that we're solving for, is just really helping, one, it be so easy that the employees can do it and not even think about it. You pick up your phone, you clock in, you pick up your phone, you clock out when you're leaving. And then 2, for all of that data to be pulled in to payroll and make the payroll process easier. A lot of people think that they have a problem with payroll and that payroll is a pain in the butt, but it's actually the time tracking side of the payroll that's not being pulled in properly and the ease of that integration. So that's the TSheet side. And for me, as the head of accounting programs and education, it is my job, mostly this is a lot of me talking, but I typically like to do the listening and really hearing what the accounting profession is needing. I find, and this is where our hearts connect, of just wanting to help people be successful. And however that is, and whatever education it is they need, if If I have that skill set to teach, then I will do it. If I don't, then I will find other people that know it so I can at least provide the education. And so that's my main job here. I built out a new certification program that kind of has different paths for different people in the journey, whether you're an admin that needs to do it or a salesperson within a firm. You have different needs of the education. But I also do education on work-life balance because I think that's a huge thing with this. Oh, you can work from anywhere, anytime. We are working all of the time.
Right.
And so, you know, I'll do anywhere from work-life balance to marketing to QBO classes to whatever is really needed to help people get that next step in their career.
Excellent.
Wow. That's a lot of stuff.
Yes, it is. And it's interesting to hear that as part of your role, you're doing education beyond what the software is, which is very rare. Usually, you know, the education role is educating on your software. But again, you know, representative of the culture that is at your office, it's beyond just the software and to help the person holistically, which I think is awesome.
I agree. And when they were talking to me about this position, I was like, yeah, that's my passion. It's like everywhere I've gone, that's been a part of kind of who I am. And so to have the opportunity here, I was like, yeah, of course I can just help. And just that invigorates me every day, is like figuring out what it is that's going to be the next step, what they should be learning.
So carrying forward with that, can you share a little bit about what the vision is for TSheets?
Yeah, absolutely. The vision, I just laugh because most of the time, the stock answer, which is absolutely true, by the way, is that they want to be the #1 employee rated and requested time tracking and scheduling solution on the planet.
Okay.
It's a small goal, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Somebody has to do it, right? Somebody has to do it.
And I think if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Matt that does it.
Yeah.
So
the galaxy will be 2019, but for right now, we're just focused on the planet.
Okay. So if you could, well, we're going to talk a little bit now about what's happening in our industry. As you know, our industry is going through a monumental shift. So if you could look into your crystal ball, which I'm sure you have one, where do you think our industry is going in? And we used to say, you know, 5 years down the road, but I think everything's moving so fast that it's so hard to imagine what it's going to look like in 5 years.
I agree.
So even 1 year or 2 years down the road, do you see anything that is going to significantly affect how our industry is moving forward?
You know, we see, and from going to all the conferences, as you do as well, and research and everything, we see all of these things that are absolutely going to change the marketplace and the industry as we see it. To me, I think the biggest thing is, I feel like it's everything that we've been talking about, not on this webinar, but just in general lately, is the artificial intelligence and smart data. A lot of people have been talking about big data and how you have all of this back-end information now. And the trend, I really like smart data. So it's not just having a lot of data, but intelligent data to help you make decisions. And the software that's being developed out there, I mean, you saw it at, you know, QuickBooks Connect and XeroCon and everywhere this year. They're, you know, through their app, getting everything from their books. You know, oh, tell me what invoices I have that are outstanding. And so really understanding where we fit in that model. And I think there are so many opportunities that we just need to figure out in the data mining and the analysis of it all, and how you figure out how you can train your clients in artificial intelligence to make their life easier and become that trainer and that expert. So you are on the forefront of learning, okay, what is this technology going to be doing? So I can then go to my client and say, hey, this is how you can work now. And they're always seeing you as a forward-thinking practitioner. And so I think it's going to open up opportunities on a daily basis, because like you say, everything is changing so fast. It's like at warp speed. But if we really continue going to the conferences, we continue to look at the research that is outside of the accounting world, a lot of things are being adopted in verticals at a much more rapid speed. And if we look at those trends, like, have you seen the grocery stores that they're no longer grocery stores, but they have at the terminals of their train station, the commute trains, LED screens that have all the groceries on there, and you can just click on there, your groceries, and tell them what stop you're at, and it'll deliver your groceries at your stop.
No, I haven't seen.
No,
that's amazing.
yeah.
Like,
And
you
that's
don't
just the
even,
beginning.
Yeah.
yeah. And so think about all of the clients that you have if you're in that profession, and that's the vertical, the niche that you're in, of grocery stores that could be out of business, that no longer are going to have people coming into their store. And what can you do to future-proof them, to help them move forward, and either have them go niche or do a specialty that they can't get there, or do something. So I think it's, if you start really looking at those trends and figuring out how it's going to affect your clients, I don't know what that was, how it's going to affect your clients, I'm still alive. I think that will really help you future-proof your own business, but you really have to be on, on the education mode always.
Well, and I guess with it changing so quickly and so much, it's either an exciting time for you or a terrifying time for you, depending on your personality. But being able to embrace the change and look to see what the new opportunities are that are going to be coming towards you or for you and your practice, I think is going to be huge. And maybe that's a good place. I know that one of the things that you do like to talk about is guerrilla marketing.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's a kind of a good segue from, in order to maximize or to take advantage of this shift as to how your practice is working or the services that you offer, you're going to have to change your marketing tactics. So maybe if you can talk a little bit about, what guerrilla marketing is for the people in our audience that don't know, and then some advice that you've got on how they could market to stay relevant.
Yeah. And I hope people, I agree with you on it being like a scary or exciting time. And I think it's scary if you look like too far out and panic. But if you just look at what I can do today, it'll be all right. You're learning for the future, but what can I do today that's going to make a difference? It's like one day at a time. If you start looking too far out, then it's like,
That's absolutely true.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, all right, what can I do today to make a difference?
Yeah.
For guerrilla marketing, really, to me, I am like a super geek about it. To me, guerrilla marketing is all of those quick wins that you can do on a very limited budget. Because I feel like a lot of us don't have, like, we're not backed by investors in our business all the time. So we need to figure out how to be smart and effective without spending a lot of money. Like when I had my own business, I considered myself grateful that I even could budget a couple $1,000s a month for marketing. But I knew it was important. And so I would take that and I would stretch it like so far. Like every little piece, I'm like, okay, I could do this and this. So to me, it's really just doing something. We call this thing a surprise and delight. Like if you are doing guerrilla marketing to your existing clients to just kind of help client retention, then it's more of a surprise and delight aspect to your business of giving that, and it could be as easy as like going and giving them cupcakes or sending them a unique gift that's personalized or something that just helps them realize how grateful you are for their business and that they are a part of your universe. And then if it's not about the client retention and it's more about obtaining new clients, then there is a variety of things that you can do that we can talk about that I don't know where you would like to start.
What do you think, I guess there's so many places we could start.
I know, right?
Okay, so if we're looking at it from the perspective of obtaining new clients, I mean, I love your surprise and delight with existing clients, but if you're looking to grow and you want to get new clients, can you give us your top 3 things that might be a place for them to start?
Yes, absolutely. So the first, and I'll say there's like 2 parallel first steps. One is figuring out who your audience is that you want to attract to your business. I think a lot of practitioners are in that mode of they do some marketing and it's very general because they are very open to whoever like comes to them. But if you want to be very specific about the companies that you want to attract and the business that you want to attract, you really need to do some deep dives on niche and understand the personas. We call them customer personas. And I go down to even like, is it a male or female customer that I'm going with? Like, do I work better with one or the other? How old are they? Do they have a family? Because all of those decisions and understanding who you are truly trying to target matters in the graphics that you use. It matters in where they are in their life and their difficulties and what their challenges are. Because for a brand new business starting out, they're going to have a very different challenge set than somebody that has been in business for 10 years and just needs to tweak and adjust and fine tune their business or their opportunities for growth. And so when you're targeting a huge group, you can't speak to everybody in the way that they really need to be spoken to. So I think the number one thing is really figuring out your niche and who your ideal client is that just brings you joy to work with. And the other thing is in guerrilla marketing, it's usually about a trade of some sort. If you're wanting to work with partners in marketing, you have to figure out what you have to offer to give. Like, do you have a newsletter? Do you have a blog article? Do you have a social media following that is really like well done? Do you have YouTube videos? Like, what is it that you can give in the relationship? Because that's where the free stuff comes. So when I had my own business, it was a retail store downtown. And I would find everybody, and I'm going to tell you what it is. It's totally bizarre in my journey, but it was a video game store.
Really? Okay.
Yes, it was a video game store.
You did say you were a bit of a geek, so maybe that does make sense.
A little bit. So it was a video game store. And when I first started out, I'd played, this is going to totally date me, but it's when I played Pac-Man back in the day and those kind of things, that was the video games I knew. The video games today are very different.
Yes.
But I was sitting here when I got into it. This is like a boy-centric environment, right? It was like a bunch of teen boys, 20-year-old. But I started really thinking about who my target audience is. And I'll give you a guess. Who do you think my target audience?
I think it would be boys between 14 and 22.
Right. And that would be the natural assumption of anybody. My target audience was the moms.
Because they would buy the software or the games for their kids.
And they were the gateway and the approval.
Right.
So unless they were like out of the house,
Right.
Yeah.
it was the moms.
Yeah.
And so when I really dug into what was who my audience was, I found out, okay, it's the mom. So I started partnering with salons. I started partnering with restaurants that I knew they went to. So at the salons, like I would do little like gift bag nail packages for them with my play and trade card on it and just tell them that I hope they had a relaxing time. I would go to the restaurants and I would order table tents, which is a card that's like a tent and it has writing on both sides. And I would ask if I could put these table tents on their thing. And I would ask them for any type of giveaway or whatever they wanted me to put into my bags at my store. And so I just started really thinking about where the audience is that I wanted to go and figuring out what they needed. And I think that's a big thing for us in the accounting world is you start thinking about what other companies are trying that aren't competitive to you, but that are trying to reach the same audience. Is it the banks? Is it insurance people? And who you want to be tied to? Is it the downtown associations? Is it some sort of organizations? And figuring out, do they have a newsletter that you can write an article for? Do you have a blog? Do they have a blog that you can participate on? Can you give them a video? Anything that you can give them and then you can take back is going to be, I didn't pay for any of that other than like the physical stuff that I was giving out. Right. But there's so many free things that you can do of just trading. Like, hey, I'm trying to reach these same people. I know you are. You're not asking for their client list, but you're asking for them to send something out for you on your behalf.
Sure.
So.
No,
great ideas.
Great ideas, yes. Yep. So it comes back to, though, being able to identify what that ideal client looks like for you. So It's all driven by that very first step is you have to identify who you want to target before you can try any of these other the marketing ideas. Otherwise you are, as you said, kind of throwing it out there and hoping that it's going to stick somewhere with someone that you want to work with.
Yeah, it's that shotgun approach that you're just like, I hope this works. And then especially for us that have like small businesses, because that's still where my heart is. Even within TSheets, I'm my own division and I have a couple employees under me, but like I'm my own division. And so I still think like a small business person. Like when I booked my Airbnb, I was like, oh, this is cheaper than the hotel. Like I still see it like it's my dollar.
Yeah.
But when we're running small businesses, we don't have the income and the money to do that shotgun approach and hope that it works.
Yeah.
Like you're spending money and going, I hope this is successful. I saw somebody recently say to do newspaper ads. And I'm not a big believer in print ads. I think you have to do a lot of those to make it resonate, especially with all the noise that is out there with social media and websites and blogs and all these other things that are trying to fight for the attention. And it also depends on your demographic though. If that is your demographic, usually in the US at least, it's like a different generation that's reading the newspaper, and it might be a client that is looking to maybe sell their business, or they're kind of in that mindset. And that might be something that you're like, hey, that's the niche that I want to go. I want to go after those businesses and help them sell their business to somebody else. And who knows? Yeah. But you have to be smart about it and really target it. Because to me, like if you're just doing an ad just to do an ad, like,
I think one of the biggest challenges for most small business owners, or certainly a lot of small business owners, is that they become so involved in their business that they don't force themselves. And sometimes you really do have to force yourself to step back and to think about and to sit back and just brainstorm and just plan, and I always think about that quote. It's attributed to Abe Lincoln, and I think that's who it was, but I don't know for sure, about chopping down the tree, right? If I have to chop down the tree, I'm going to and I have 5 hours to do it. I'm going to sharpen the axe for 4 hours, and then I'm going to chop down the tree. That, you have to have a plan and some thought, so that when you do start spending whatever kind of limited budget you have, that there's a better chance of it being more effective.
I agree. And I think along those same lines, you have this opportunity to grow your business, and all of us are working every day. Like we come in to, I'm sure like everybody else, like that list of emails where you're constantly in reactionary mode. As opposed to being proactive. And I really try very hard to do block scheduling, which is, for me, it's just blocking out time that can't be booked by anybody else for things that I want to get done to make sure that I have completed my tasks that are on my list for the week or on my list for the day. And you just have to make time. And I know that's hard because we can't make more time or less time. We can't manage time. It's going to go on without us. So it's just a matter of like blocking out. And even if it's only, I have a niche paper I can send you guys, and you can send out to whoever's on the call. And I have a persona one too. I'll send you guys. And so even if it's blocking out like a half hour or 15 minutes just to fill out a little bit of that every day, until it's complete, then you're, like we were saying earlier, you're chunking it away at it one day at a time until you have it done, and then can go at it and go, oh, all right, here's my marketing plan. Because when I do look at the personas, you have all these ideas come to your head because you know exactly who you're trying to reach. You're like, oh, I can do that. And it just starts stimulating all these things that don't happen until you really focus.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think one of the things that has helped Juliet and I over the last couple of years is that we take 2 hours every Friday morning. Doesn't matter what's going on in the business or our lives, 2 hours every Friday morning. It's booked in the calendar. You can't do anything else at that time. And all we do is brainstorm about where we are, where we want to go, how are we going to get there. And that is probably 2 of the most valuable hours we have for that week. So
Yeah, no,
And
absolutely.
it shows in what you guys do. Like, you guys have built such a strong brand, and why you're one of the firm of the futures, or the firm of the future. You can tell that you guys are putting that effort in there. And so kudos for doing that. And I highly recommend anybody listening to like follow these people nonstop and just say, okay, what are they doing? Don't copy them, but use them for inspiration.
Thank you.
We don't want to see a lot of ninjas.
just don't make the same mistakes, and that's part of the reason,
Yeah.
you know, that we go through all of this, and started Ninja was so that they can not make the same mistakes, because I think we've pretty much made every mistake out there and still be able to stay in business. And there were, you know, some days we weren't sure we were going to be in business. So, so if we can help avoid that, those pitfalls.
And I think probably within 24 hours of finding out we had won the firm of the future, and it was all a bit of a blur, and we were sitting there, and I think we were having a glass of wine, and we were talking about all the things we wanted to do, all the things we could accomplish, how this is going to help us do these things. And then we sort of looked at each other and said, you know, even though we are the firm of the future now, we still only have 24 hours in every day. And so we still have to be smart about how we use that time, you know, but.
That's true. And I'll ask you, if you guys don't mind me asking you a question, but when you are so creative in what you guys come up with and what you're doing, how do you guys choose your activities that you feel will be most impactful?
I can answer that one.
Yeah.
Please do.
I think that for Steve and I, more than anything, we both are very different personalities, and we come at things very differently. So what's going to be really important, and you know, this is our next project, to me, isn't necessarily the same thing as it would be for Steve. And vice versa, that he comes up with all these things and, oh, we got to do this and we have to do this. And I'm, yeah, okay. So I think for us, it's the things that we agree on, that these both, you know, both of us say, yes, this is going to make a difference. And then that's the one that we go with. So, so I think we're fortunate in that we've got a sounding board and kind of a stopper to prevent us from running in 20 different directions.
We're definitely left brain, right brain, but it's in two brains, like it's two separate brains. You know, I don't know how that works, but it does. So
I totally get that. Get that. I worked with my husband and we were the same way. But it's good to have both sides to complement.
Absolutely.
As long as we stayed in our lane, we were fine.
Yes. And with Steve and I, it is exactly the same way. This is my lane. This is your lane. And you know, if it's the ultimate decision is mine in my lane, and vice versa. Otherwise, you know, I'm not sure we would still be married.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know, I hope I don't know if anybody online, and maybe they can write in chat, are sole practitioners, but if you are sole practitioners, I hope that you guys have a network of people, because just having somebody else to bounce ideas off of is just.
Absolutely. No, we're big believers in having a coach, having a mentor, getting into a mastermind group, like whatever you need to do to surround yourself with people where you can support and help each other can only move you forward.
Yeah,
I agree. And right now too, there's so many great groups that are out there, and there's so much free education. You can learn.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If we jump back to the guerrilla marketing for a second. So with social media being such a big player in the marketing space now, obviously guerrilla marketing and social media would go hand in hand, because it isn't a very, you know, cost prohibitive. There's no barrier to enter it.
Right.
But do you have any tips as to where somebody could start, or what they should focus on, or maybe even any marketing tips for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So and I'm sorry if I'm a broken record out there, but it all depends on who you're trying to target. Because in Facebook or Twitter or wherever you're trying to go, most people, Facebook is still the number one. I just read a report a couple days ago on social media, and it is still the number one place where everybody is and to market. So that, and it was by like 300% to the next one was like 60% are using this. And so it's by far. So, you know, I would start with one, and figure out the groups where your audiences are and see if you can't participate. But when you participate, you are participating by listening and being a part of the conversation and not by selling. I think especially, I mean, we all know none of us like being sold to, and like, hey, like a lot of Chamber of Commerce meetings in my area, like you go to and you get pitched insurance all day long. It's like, maybe I'll stop going to those. They want somebody to be a part of the conversation. The nice thing though, is that you will start hearing their issues and their problems, and that will help you figure out how you can target that audience better. And you can listen to that and go, oh, they're having problems with, I'm going to say time tracking or their payroll solution. I can write a white paper on that. And then next time I see them having a conversation, I can go, hey, here's a piece that I wrote. Hopefully it'll be helpful to you. And so you just, on listening, you find all of these things, these issues, their struggles, their pain points, what they're excited about. And it just gives you information of what you can do videos on or create content around that will be free to you, that will help them. And so it's not a pitch of my business, it's a pitch that I want to help, and here's what I know that will help.
Absolutely. And it goes back to that education piece, that the selling or the selling will happen if you are doing the educating.
I 100% agree. Like that will be an outcome down the road. And I know some of us want, like we need income now. So we're like, oh, how long is this going to take? But you can, there's actually, I think Sage has it, and it's one of my most favorite things. It's the customer journey. And so I'll try to find a link to it on there, but it really kind of circles the whole entire customer journey, and you can kind of plan out like ways that they can find out about you. Like if they don't know about you at all, how are they going to become aware of you? And it makes you kind of concentrate on your business and focus on all these different elements for somebody to find you, all the way to buying you, buying your services or opting in, to keeping them a repeat customer. And so when you kind of analyze all of that, you're like, all right, I know that these are the pieces that will get me their trust, build their trust with me. And then I need a piece that has a call to action, or in the marketing world, it's a CTA, of what's going to make them move from trusting me to actually becoming a purchaser. And you have to be comfortable with that ask.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's probably, what makes us good bookkeepers and accountants doesn't necessarily translate into making that ask. I know when it was me doing the sales and marketing for AIS Solutions before Steve took it over, it was probably, I would come up with any possible thing that I could do so that I didn't have to do that ask. So I understand it completely, but you have to, at some point, you have to be able to do it.
And it could be as easy as, I would love to help you out with this. It doesn't have to be like, hey, do you want to buy my services? I would love to have a conversation with you to see how I can help you out. Because that's the thing I love about the accounting profession, is everybody in this profession, I feel, got into this to help somebody else.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
And so if you're just being your genuine self and saying, like, this is my jam. This is what I love doing. Like, give me the opportunity to help you out. And I can see what you need to change. And I'm happy to just have a conversation with you and see if we're a right fit.
Yeah.
And it's just, being your true self.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Some great advice. Great advice there. Okay. So TSheets is obviously an app that integrates with a lot of different software. Obviously we're a QuickBooks centric firm, so we use it as well for ourselves and our clients. And there are a lot of great apps that are out there, and there's more and more coming every day. So could you possibly give some advice to our audience as to how do they pick an app, or where should they start? What should be the process for them before they start choosing apps that are out there?
Yeah, and like I was saying, when I was at Sleater, my vetting was 5 pages. And I did the question to Doug of like, hey, how do you want me to vet technology? And he was like, me a book, and I was like, okay. So I wish I still had that document because I feel like it would be very helpful. But who has that time? I mean, that was my job, so it was okay. But who in the real world has that time? Because it would take me months. It was from delving into the company itself. I would look at the CEO. I would look at their successes beforehand. One thing that was big for us was whether the person that founded the company was still involved and whether they had started a company and then sold it off and whether that company was still successful or they're just these start-sell people. Right. So we wanted people that were in it for the longevity and were passionate about the problem they were solving, because we knew that they would be there for the long haul. Because that's the other thing with all this technology starting, especially me being in the tech area in California, in the Silicon Valley, like you see things start and stop like this every day. Yeah. And so it's scary to adopt something as a practitioner and then recommend it to a client and going, God, I hope it's still there the next week when we've imported all of their information into it. Right. And so one, I look, there are obviously are companies that start out and right off the bat, they're phenomenal, but more so I look for companies that have a little bit of time under them, that are passionate about customer service too, because if it's a problem that you cannot answer, you want their customer service to be available. And for me, a lot of times, some of the products I would vet, they would be really strong products, but then they only had chat available.
Right.
And so to me, I felt like if you're in front of a client and you're having problems and you have to sit there and type in the problem and then watch those dots waiting for a response, those few seconds can feel like hours.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you just want to call somebody and fix it quick for your client. And so looking at all those pieces that are outside of the solution, I think are really important. Obviously, you're going to find something that integrates with the products you want. You want to be the driver of the product adoption. Like, might be horrible to say, but letting your client be the leader of like, oh, I want to use this product, or, oh, I adopted this, like cut that off in the head, be the leader and say, here's the products that work, because sometimes they'll piecemeal it together and the data won't communicate and it's just going to create more work for you. And you don't want to do that. So you want to make sure that you're going, okay, we're using QuickBooks. They have a problem with X. What products in that area? Look at all of their ratings online. There's a lot of different companies that have star ratings for them and their reviews. Look at all of those. Call the company, talk to them. And once you kind of fine tune what you're looking for, because you know it integrates, then you go to them and go, here's the tech stack that you need to be using. This will help us this, and make sure you're telling them the value of it and why you're recommending it. And then you have to get their buy-in and onboard them and all those wonderful things. But
that's good advice.
Great advice. And I think if we go back to your initial comment about, finding your ideal client or your niche, then you also, that research that you have to do for the tech stack, you'll have to do it once and are going to be able to replicate it and not have to research a new set of tech stack every time you bring on a new client. And you become the expert in that tech stack as well, which is going to differentiate you. So it all goes back. If you were in person,
I would hug you right now. Because that's why I'm like such a big believer in going niche, because you cut out your research time and you get to know the products really well. And then you're just solving that same problem over and over and you look like a rock star because you already know. You're like, I got this.
We all only have so much time in the day, and you can't be researching new products and new apps all the time, especially at the speed that they're coming out now. So, absolutely.
And a lot of people ask their peers, which I think is great, but your peers don't always have the same client base as you do and the same needs that your client does. So I love asking hey, have you used this? What do you like about it? To just get more information. But I still don't blindly go, oh, so-and-so said it works, I'm going to go, even though I love that person.
Yes.
So.
Okay, so I want to make sure we have enough time for some questions.
Yes.
What do you love about what you do? I mean, I think it all came across,
Yeah,
but
I think
I'm
it
going to
did.
ask the question anyways. What do you love about what you do?
Everything. No, I love honestly, the biggest, because it's my biggest driver, the thing I love about what I do is the people that I get to be in their world with. And it motivates me to do what I do every day. But the people, like I said before, in this profession are some of the most incredibly giving people that I've ever met. And I had an opportunity when I was transitioning jobs to go outside of the accounting world. And I just couldn't imagine leaving it now that I'm in it because of the people. And
we're so glad you didn't leave it.
Yes.
So the last question that we always ask all of our guests is, Steve and I are very big readers and, as you know, education junkies. So we always try to find out what the most recent business book is that you've read or that you would recommend for our audience and for ourselves.
Ooh, I am one of those serial readers as well, where like I probably have anywhere from 5 to 7 books ongoing at a time.
Oh my God. Okay, I can't imagine I can do 2.
Yeah.
One fiction and one nonfiction. I can do 5
I'll
or 7.
start and I'll be like, oh, like I have a little bit of ADD on that side because I'm like always wanting to learn. But can I give 2 books?
Sure.
Okay. So one is called Business Balance and Bliss, and that is by Amy Vetter.
Okay.
And she is just a powerhouse. The thing I like about it is she is really on a mission to help us find more balance in our life and bring back those things that really fuel us, like whatever it was as a child or a teen or something that just made you happy. And she has all of these practical tips in just recentering yourself. And I think that is just much needed. And I constantly go back and reread pieces of that and go, okay, just to recenter. And the other one is a book, I might totally butcher the title, but it was called Multicasting.
Okay.
And to me, it was just this aha moment. And what multicasting is basically taking one piece of marketing and using it in a variety of different ways. For instance, say you do these interviews, right? And you take all of these interviews and you submit it to rev.com, which transcribes interviews. And then you can use those as blog articles. When you collect enough of those interviews, you can actually make a mini ebook that people can download on your site with tips and tricks. That can be a passive way to get more clients. And so it's taking a piece and figuring out all these different ways that you can use it so you're not reinventing the wheel every single time. And to me, I read it like, I don't know, years ago, but to me, it still is like one of the best like ahas that I had, that I was like, yeah, why am I reinventing all the time?
And I can see Steve barely able to contain himself. Because that's what he keeps saying is, that we're doing these webinars and we need to repurpose it. And so absolutely, I can just see him barely able to contain himself when you.
Thank you, Misty. Thank you.
No, but read that book because it has so many ideas of where you could use it that are just like, and even though it's years, they probably read it in 2007 or something, but it's still completely applicable, I think.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so let's open it up, see if anyone in our audience has any questions. For Misty on either.
While we're waiting for the questions to come in, I did want to ask, what is one of the biggest mistakes or misunderstandings that bookkeepers or accountants have about TSheets?
Biggest mistakes or misunderstandings. This might be a little self-serving, but I think one of the biggest mistakes is not taking advantage of a free account. It's free for life for accounting professionals.
Absolutely.
So you can use it. It's, to me, a lot of people, even if you're doing value pricing, to be able to understand where you're spending your time. We had a practitioner, Janitha Doe, who you guys may or may not know, but she started using it just to track her time and what she was spending time on. and she realized that she wasn't spending enough time on the sales aspect. And so she changed her business and became more successful because she was able to like physically look at a report and go, oh, like I'm doing the marketing, I'm doing the networking, I'm doing all this. I'm not actually doing the sales side of it to close the deal. And so some of those things of, even if you're working on projects, knowing where your time is spent is nice, and going, oh, I didn't price that effectively, or I need more people, I need more bandwidth, or maybe I can like, I didn't realize I was spending so much time on social media or doing all these other things. I need to hire somebody. Like Don Brolin ended up hiring an assistant to take off a lot of the administrative tasks that were sucking up her time that she found through TSheets when she was logging her time. And so it's free to take advantage of and just play with it and figure out what you're doing or what you can be doing to like tweak and adjust to make sure you're really focused on the bigger goal of what you need to be doing.
Great.
Well, and quite honestly, I mean, as business owners, we usually are the ones that are pulled in so many different directions that it's hard to say where we are spending our time. So to be able to look at something independent that tells us, it's quite eye-opening.
Yeah.
It's so easy too. It's just like a 2-button hit.
Yeah.
Like switch task and go. Yeah.
Speaking of time, we're almost out of that.
Well, thank you so much to our audience for taking the time out. Hopefully you found some value in the hour you spent with us and with Misty. And of course, thank you so much, Misty. It was lovely chatting with you. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to share a lot of great advice.
Yeah, no, the time went by. Speaking of time again, the time went by so quickly. I think it was just great. So thank you very much for your time, Misty.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it. Hugs to you both.
Okay. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.